Hey, Kyle here with winthehouseyoulove.com. Let's talk about a Reddit post, actually two of them that have been going kind of viral in the home buying community here recently. So this person said, I purchased my house recently, 6 months, and am concerned that housing prices will drop. When they do, who do I contact to get my principal lowered? Will the realtor or the bank give me the refund on the difference? This has been going around a lot. And then I've also seen another one that said, what happens if you buy a house, then a few years later, the housing bubble bursts and prices reduce? Say you buy a house at $500,000, you pay for a few years, and then the house is valued at a lot less. Does the money you paid on the mortgage essentially pay off the house faster, and are you owed money? The short answer to both of these is no, nothing actually happens. Now, these posts have been going a little bit viral in kind of the finance and housing bubble and first-time homebuyer communities on Reddit, and I've seen it on Twitter as well. And I will say really quickly, it's kind of disheartening. You know, it's hard to tell if this is a troll or not, if someone's just kind of like putting stuff out there to be funny or if they're being serious. But either way, it's kind of disheartening because underneath all these posts are people just kind of mocking people who maybe don't have access to good financial education. And I really think it's kind of disappointing when somebody has a question about finances that, they're going here and saying, hey, can you help me understand this? And people are just making fun of them because they don't understand. But they were asking a question they might not know. So first of all, I want you to know that if you do have a question about buying, there is no dumb question, okay? It is good to explore information. I think it's really upsetting when people just put other people down because they don't have access. They didn't have access to good financial education, so they're just going to make fun of them even when they ask. It doesn't make sense. So ultimately, in these situations, just to recap, nothing actually happens. If you buy a home for $500,000 and then the price goes down, nothing really changes. You aren't owed money back. You're not going to get a refund. You bought a home that was worth $500,000 and you paid $500,000 for it, and you took out a loan. You put a small down payment on it. If the value of that decreases, you still have the exact same loan, and the value decreasing doesn't actually change your payment either, right? Because let's say you bought it for $500,000 and you took out a loan for $450,000, meaning you put $50,000 down. You still have a loan for $450,000 even if the home price goes down to $425,000, okay? So this is what people call negative equity. That is when your loan balance is higher than your home is worth. So for instance, you owe $450,000 on your loan, but your home value is only worth $425,000. So you owe $25,000 more than your home is worth. So if you needed to sell your home, you actually need to bring an additional $25,000 to the closing table to be able to pay off the lender. When this becomes an issue is not when you own the home, because nothing actually changes. I think sometimes when we talk about a potential housing crash or correction, or if values go down, I think sometimes people can forget that if you already own a home and the value decreases, nothing actually changes to you in that moment. What does change though is your ability to sell it in the future. Okay, so when you are underwater in this position or have negative equity, it can prevent you from needing or from being able to sell your home without bringing money to the closing table. Most people are used to the idea that they can buy a home and then they can live in it for a few years and then they can sell it and get a check back. But if you bought at a value up here and then the home value decreases, you may still have a loan balance that's higher than what you can sell the home for. And if that's the case, then you may actually need to bring money to the closing table. And a lot of people aren't in that position where to sell the home, they actually have to pay off a balance on their loan. And so it can keep you stuck in a home where you either have to bring money to the closing table or you just can't sell because you don't have the money to be able to do this. And think of it in the same way to a car, like the used car market. Like if you have a car that's worth, I don't know, $20,000, it's worth that because that's what the market is willing to pay for it. As we saw with some of the shortages that have been happening recently, people are more willing to pay for that car because it's more in demand. It's the same thing with houses where the value is based on the demand in the market. And just because you paid $20,000 for the car doesn't mean that the market is going to pay $20,000 for it. You might have bought it for $20,000, but in 5 years, that car might only be worth $12,000. So again, ultimately, the main issue with negative equity is not what happens to your payment. You're not owed money back or anything like that. It just is you have a loan and you still have to pay it off. And the issue becomes then when you want to sell. If the home value is lower than what your loan balance is, you're going to bring money. You're going to need to bring money to the closing table just to be able to sell the home. And if you can't do that, then you're either going to have to rent out the home if you want to move somewhere else, or just keep staying there longer. So ultimately, you don't want to end up like this person. Don't feel pressured into buying a home if you don't feel comfortable with how the home buying process and home selling process works. So many people get really swept up into home buying. And I see this all the time where people go, I think I want to buy a house. And then they kind of dip their toe in the water, and all of a sudden they didn't realize that that little stream is now like a raging river that they get swept away in, right? It goes from, I think I want to buy a house, to browsing houses online. All of a sudden they wrote an offer and they're under contract. And then they look back and realize, was this really what we wanted to do? Because the process is going to move very quickly as you start talking with more people. You start talking with a real estate agent, you start talking with a loan officer, and it's really easy to assume I'm now a home buyer. When in reality, at any moment, you can take a step back, you can take a pause, you can step out of home buying. You absolutely can do that. Don't feel pressured into buying just because you see values go up, or interest rates go up, or you see everyone else seemingly buying a home, because you don't want to end up in a situation like this where you're not actually comfortable with how everything works. The best way to buy is to make sure that you feel very comfortable with your finances and you feel very comfortable with your plan. And you understand, if I buy a home here, I ideally want to live in the home for maybe 3, 5, 10 years, and then we're comfortable selling the home. But if you don't understand how this works and you're only planning based off of your monthly payment right now, you could end up in some hot water if you don't understand things like this. So the best way to buy is to buy what fits your budget and your goals. And if you're planning on living in your home for at least 5 years, the longer you plan on staying and living in your home, the more that lowers your risk of a market downturn. Okay? Because let's say you want to buy your home now, and let's say in the next 3 years, home values decrease. If that's the case, and you want to sell in 3 years, you might be in the same position where you need to bring money to the closing table or you can't sell. On the opposite side, if that's a longer time period, 15 years, historically, there's never been a decline that's lasted that long. So you would be able to recover your money and not have to bring money to the closing table. The longer you plan on staying in your home, the less risk it is to running into negative equity like this. There is no question that is off limits. Please work with somebody who is comfortable helping you understand the questions that you have, okay? You should never feel ashamed of the questions that you have just because you're wanting to understand the process better. If you do want to talk with a helpful loan officer or real estate agent, I have a link in the description that you can get connected with them. And if you want to learn more about the home buying process, I have a first-time home buyer's guide that covers everything from beginning to end, and you can watch this video right here.